Hey, welcome back to my channel. I will be starting another series on my channel where I'm going to be giving you 5 book recommendations that I highly recommend. I obviously don't know how many episodes I'm going to do because it's book recommendations, but I'm thinking maybe each one I'll do something different. So for this video, I'm doing 5 books from 5 different genres, and then maybe the next one I'll do 5 romance books, 5 spicy romance books, 5 thrillers, something like that. And of course, you can always expect these books to be by BIPOC authors featuring BIPOC characters. So let's hop into it. I have my notes because one of the reasons why I hate doing these sit down videos where I'm just talking about books that I've read from a long time ago, is I can never remember all of it, and then I stutter a lot. It's just hard for me to edit, okay, because I make so many mistakes. Okay, so which one do I want to start with first? Let's start with contemporary. My contemporary book recommendation is Isaac Song. Now, Isaac Song is a follow-up to Don't Cry For Me by the same author. You don't technically have to read Don't Cry For Me first. However, I would highly suggest reading that one first. The only reason why I'm mentioning specifically Isaac Song is because I gave that one a 5-star. I gave Don't Cry For Me a 4.75. I would still highly recommend both, and I'm still going to talk about both, but more specifically Isaac Song I gave a 5-star. Don't Cry For Me is about Jacob. Jacob is the father of Isaac. They both have a strained relationship. However, on Jacob's deathbed, he decides that he's going to write his life story, family secrets, all kinds of things that Isaac wouldn't have known as a kid in letters to Isaac for him to open up later. It's definitely a tough read because this does have a historical aspect because it's taking place during a specific time. And I believe Jacob was born in the 60s. I want to say he was born the same year as my mom, maybe 1963 or 62 or something like that, around 1963. And so we know historically what the 60s was. But not only that, if you were born in the 60s, you would have been exposed to, you know, like your grandparents and your great-grandparents being born well before that. So we do get into slavery in this book. And it's just such a tough read, especially seeing Jacob's, like, his story. And I found myself struggling. But then we get into Isaac's story and Isaac's book. And Isaac's book follows him in Chicago in the 1980s as a young queer black boy. And he has been reading the letters that Jacob left for him while also like going to therapy. That was one of my favorite parts about this book because I feel like he definitely needed that therapy and he needed someone to talk to from reading the letters. I saw a couple of people or one person say in a review that they didn't really like that part, and I'm like, I don't think the book could be written without it. Going into Isaac's story, you know, coming from Don't Cry For Me and seeing from Jacob's POV, now we're getting Isaac's POV. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is even worse than I thought. But he does detail like some good moments and whatnot. But it was just so heartbreaking but also healing to read. And I would highly recommend both of those. A crime thriller recommendation, Laws of Wrath. Laws of Wrath is book number 2 in the Martyr Maker series. The series I hope is not finished because the way that book number 2 ends is crazy. We don't continue from where we left off in book number 2 in book number 3. I'm hoping that the next book we pick up where we left off in book number 2. So I'm not gonna get into the plot because I don't think that it's a standalone. It just feels more interconnected, so you should read book number 1. Book number 1 is good. Book number 3 is good as well. I just highly recommend the second one. It's not one of those things, well, you just have to get through the first book. No, even with Don't Cry For Me, that book is still great. Same with this one. I forgot what the first book is called. It's still great. There's just something about number 2 that stood out to me. I remember I got this recommendation from Fat Girl Reads on Instagram. She always has the best recs. I think we have a lot of books in common. And I remember her pitching the series like Criminal Minds, and I would definitely agree with that. Each book, because there's 3 right now, each book follows a different case. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the third one is my least favorite. I think I gave it like a 3.75. You don't have to read that one to read the second, because the second one comes first. You feel me? The third one, it just had so much stuff going on. I'm like, oh. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about book number 2. If you read it, I would definitely suggest listening to the audiobook because I have read his books physically, but there's just something about how it's formatted when he's jumping from character to character, and sometimes I wish there were a bigger space between some of the paragraphs, so I feel like it was a little hard to keep track, whereas with the audiobook it was very easy in my opinion. One of the reasons, or the reason why I prefer the second book, is because we've already been introduced to the characters, but not only that, there's a connection between the case and some of the characters, which I really love. And I believe the video that I read this book in, I remember mentioning my favorite show called Reasonable Doubt, and Reasonable Doubt season 3 is finally out. I still have not seen it yet, but between season 1 and season 2 is my favorite because we already know the characters because they were in the first one. But the case that Jax is working on involves someone that we know, you know, so the case is very personal, and I really love that. Same with this book. That's why I loved it so much. For my middle grade thriller, I would say, I say middle grade or YA. I felt it was a little middle grade-ish, or at least on the younger side of young adult. Blood in the Water by Tiffany D. Jackson. I listened to the audiobook of this. I would highly recommend the audiobook as well. So we have Kaylani. Kaylani goes to Martha's Vineyard for the summer with her ex-friend London and her family. It's also important to note that Kaylani's dad is in prison. While there, so London's family, London is the ex-friend, her family lives in an area that has a very rich Black history background, which Kaylani does take interest in. Now, London and Kaylani, or Kaylani and London, because Kaylani is our main character, they don't have the best relationship, but Kaylani does befriend some other kids around, you know, her age and London's age that live in this same area, and they kind of start hanging out. However, there is a murder or a drowning or a shark attack that takes place, and Kaylani is like, I'm gonna figure this out. But while trying to figure this out, she does unravel other secrets and other things that have been happening and that has happened. It's very short. It's very exciting. I mean, right at the beginning it takes off. But of course it's by Tiffany D. Jackson, so it's great. I just bought her most... Wow, my shoes were so tight. Let me not show my foot. I just bought Tiffany D. Jackson's newest book called The Scammer, so be on the lookout for a reading vlog when I finally get to it. Of course, I can't leave out my romance. We have Lipstick and Camera Clicks. This was my first... Was this my first 5-star of the year? It might have been, but it was for sure my first 5-star romance this year for sure. I don't think it was my first 5-star though. It must have been my second. I haven't really given a lot of 5 stars this year. I read this book and it has a trope that I dislike with my soul, and yet I love this book so much. So we have Indigo, and at the very beginning of the book, she is betrayed by someone. So she goes on this reality dating show. Think of like The Bachelor. I don't watch The Bachelor. I'm not interested. I'm not into that kind of reality show. But she goes on the show, and The Bachelor, who I will not name because I remember reading the book and thinking, like, I don't even think they've mentioned the name of The Bachelor, but it was supposed to be like a secret for the reader. But Indigo does not like this man at all. She don't get along with him. She don't like him. Nothing. However, the guy that she really wants is a part of the production crew. I think he's one of the producers or camera guys for the show. And this guy's name is River, and River is her best friend's brother, but technically they're also best friends too. So very messy. It is a love triangle, which is the trope that I hate. It wasn't that stressful. Even though the cover of the book has both guys on it, it did get a bit funky at the end because I did end up liking one of the guys, even though that's not who she ends up with. I wasn't mad at it, to be honest. Typically in a love triangle, the reason why I hate love triangles is because I don't like that tug and pull, and I don't like whenever I can't trust the FMC to pick the right person. I didn't really have a problem with that in this book at all, which I think is why it worked so much. I also like that it was high stakes, meaning there was a lot to lose. There was a lot on the line, but that's why I loved it. I saved the best book for last. I'm pretty sure this was my first 5-star read of the year, and it took like 17 books to get there. My last recommendation for this video is a historical fiction book. I know, can you believe it? It's called Untethered. If you were to have asked me last year, the beginning of this year, 2 years ago that one of my favorite genres would be historical fiction, I would tell you that you're lying. I never would have thought that I would have loved historical fiction. Now, historical romance, I have read a book that I gave a 5-star. That was historical romance, but I think honestly I just gave it a 5-star because I'd never really read historical romance before. I tried reading like 2-3 books after that and I wasn't really a fan. I definitely want to give Beverly Jenkins a try. I've never read her before. I just don't know what book to go with, so I'm gonna need to look around. But anyway, this book, one of my favorite books, and I hate that I don't remember everything that happened. But this takes place in Troy, Alabama in 1967. Now this is historical fiction, so this book has a bunch of different things that we're dealing with. We have Katya, I think I just called her Katya in my head. We have Arcacia. I'm gonna call her Katya. We had Katya, who was running the group home for Black boys. She also was having trouble with the board that I guess is in charge of the group home. That puts her job in jeopardy. Family life. She lost her dad to cancer when she was younger, so she's like, okay, well now it's my job to take care of my mom and my 2 twin brothers. As they're older, the 2 twin brothers are in the military, and at some point, one of the twins is missing in action during the Vietnam War. And then we have someone from her high school days that re-enters her life in the present, and we have him, and there's this nostalgia and this romance that brews. It was just amazing. And of course, I can't forget about the 2 little boys that she kind of takes under her wing from the group home. It was just all around an amazing book. And if there is one book that I wish I could just reread, because I don't reread, I would pick this one. And that is my first episode of 5 books that I highly recommend. Hopefully it doesn't show for y'all, but I know this editing is about to kill me. So if you reach the end of this video, comment down a book that you highly recommend, and I'll see you next week. Bye!